Hello, and welcome back to the West Hempfield Forward local politics show. My name's Nick Dennis. I'm your 2025 candidate for West Hempfield Township Supervisor, along with Steve Walk. And I want to give you highlights from the August Board of Supervisors meeting. So, the big thing on the agenda was the city of Lancaster came and gave a presentation requesting a letter of support from West Hempfield for their redundancy waterline project connecting the Oyster Point Reservoir over near the Giant in East Hempfield to the Susquehanna River. So this is a 3-stage project. They've already done stage 1 planning through Columbia, and now they're trying to plan out stage 2 that goes through West Hempfield. And so the project is projected to cost $40 to $50 million. And so the city obviously needs to apply for some grants for that because they don't have that money just laying around. And so part of the grant approval process, it'll have more success if there are letters of support from all of the townships that this project will touch and interact with. So someone from the Water Authority, the City Water Authority, came to the Board of Supervisors and was requesting that letter of support. They overviewed the project. It's going to go from Oswego Road down here, almost in Columbia, and then it connects to the Columbia Avenue here, 462, through Mountville, and then turns up College Ave in Mountville, and then on to Hempland Road until it reaches Route 30. So it will be done in stages. They'll be digging trenches, putting in this water line that goes down to the river. It does serve 120,000 people in Lancaster County. 80 of those are West Hempfield Township residents. And so the board voted 4-1 to approve a letter of support. Rob Monroe was the only one that voted against it because he did not like the price tag. And he also felt that it would be closing off roads to certain neighborhoods that wouldn't be able to get out during construction, to which the person from the the Water Authority said that they would be putting metal plates over the construction overnight when they're not actively working on it. So people would still be able to drive over it. But despite that, Rob still voted no. So it passed 4-1 to sign a letter of support for this project. Then someone from the county planning office came and talked about the Veterans Memorial Bridge. So if you're not familiar with that, that's this bridge here that connects Columbia to Wrightsville. Very iconic bridge. It's in a lot of photos. But they have been putting off this project of trying to update the bridge to meet safety standards. I guess it's been a process going on for a very long time. Initially, the project was supposed to cost $7 million a few years ago, but then as engineers went in and looked, the project needed some more work than initially thought, and now the price tag is closer to 20 million or something like that. And so once again, they were coming and asking for a letter of support from the township supervisors, since West Hempfield, even though this is a bridge that connects Columbia to Wrightsville, it's actually our end of it is actually in West Hempfield, not in Columbia. So they came for West Hempfield Township approval for a letter of support to help them get funding. Ed did say that if they do not get these funds, that it would be the equivalent of 3 years of the county planning budget. So really no other projects would be able to be completed if they do not get outside grant funding for this project. So once again, it was voted 4-1. Rob said that he did not agree with the price tag of the project, although his argument was that it was cheaper in the past when they initially started and the price just keeps going up and up. Although if you don't sign a letter of support to get grant funding, that cost would be coming out of the county's coffers instead of state and federal grant money. So didn't make a lot of sense to me, but he voted no. So it passed 4-1. Then the board announced that they had voted between meetings to make declare a township emergency for the July 15th rain and flooding. Unfortunately, no one at the county called it an emergency, so this didn't open up any available funds for anyone who experienced flooding. But during that storm, Raintree here, Sunnyside Road, and High Ridge Road got washed out and will require some repaving to make them drivable again. The township public works officer estimated that it might be a $400 million project to resurface those 3 roads, but he gave a high-end estimate. It might be able to go out to bid and go lower. Rob Monroe's response to that was, why don't we just dead end the streets where the damage occurred? Because it's out here in farmland and some rural parts of the township, and there's not any neighborhoods down there. So why spend the money fixing up the streets? Let's just dead end them and call it quits. The rest of the board sort of was dubious of that and said that they wouldn't allow that in a new construction. The end of a street has to end in a cul-de-sac, and fire crews and emergency vehicles wouldn't be able to turn around on a dead-end street. So that doesn't make much sense. And probably once it followed all the regulations that we have for zoning and land use, probably wouldn't save that much money anyway. Interesting thing there. Another thing that was brought up in the meeting is there's a section of Fairview Park, the Abe Kaufman dedicated memorial playground, which is apparently sort of old and rusty and not up to the sort of safety standards that the township's insurance plan would be willing to cover. And the insurance company recommended that some updates be made, or in future years, injuries on that playset may no longer be covered under the township's insurance. So the supervisors had asked the township staff to look for a farm-themed playground set, because that's what it originally was when it was dedicated to Abe Kaufman. And the estimates that came back was $130,000 for what the supervisors felt like was a pretty lame tractor and barn silo playset. In my Nick editorial opinion here, this feels like something that could be opened up to the community for some public engagement and some more transparency. We could, have a little event out in the park where residents could come and vote on their favorite new addition to Fairview Park and what the new playset would look like, rather than just having a board of 5 supervisors that haven't had kids in the township in a long time make that decision. Ed was mentioning that his grandson might like the tractor, but really feels like something that could be an easy win for public engagement and involving the community in these sorts of governing decisions. But again, that's just my editorializing there. Then there was also talk of this bridge that's sort of on the border between Raffo Township and West Hempfield Township. It's on South Garfield Road over Chickies Creek. It has been deemed that it is not repairable and needs to be closed. Raffo Township says that it needs to be demolished as soon as possible. But since it's sort of straddles the line between West Hempfield and Raffo, the West Hempfield board feels like there's not a sense of urgency for demolishing it. So Raffo Township would like to see it demolished in October. West Hempfield says that it'd be okay to wait till the new year. And so they're going to get 2 bids and see which costs less and go with that option. So if it is just as cost effective to demolish it in October, then we'll go with that. Otherwise, West Hempfield is not going to approve the bids until the next year. Rob, the guy that's always worried about taxpayer funds, said that why does it need to be demolished at all? Why don't we just keep it up and keep it closed? Then they were ready to close out the meeting, but there was a group of people who didn't know when there was time for public comment. So they spoke up at the end of the meeting and talked about flooding and stormwater from that July storm that was huge. One person said on Sycamore Street that their home was completely flooded and the basement wall collapsed, and the fire department came out and said that their home was condemned, and so now they can't even live there. They seem to be living elsewhere but still paying on their mortgage at their house. And this neighborhood group, about 5 people I think, came out and asked that the township do a better job of cleaning out the storm drains that are owned by the township. They requested that the fire department have some more pipes and tubing or whatever it's called to help pump out people's basements. They were seeking any financial assistance. The board said that they did declare that emergency, which would have opened up some funds, but since the county did not declare an emergency, there was no funding available. And then this group also requested that the builder that is working on these new developments that are going up here on Erica Drive, the builder come in and clean up some of their building materials that got washed down from the construction site into these people's yards. So Ed responded and said that no amount of stormwater or roadway drainage system would have been able to handle that storm. 7 inches of rain came down in 3 hours. And the current stormwater system that the township has installed in that area and that the developers put in their site is prepped for a 10-year storm. And this was just a freak storm, and he's never seen anything like it in the 40 years that he's lived in the township. Dwayne, the public works guy, is also the stormwater officer for the township, and he said that if there is an easement on someone's property, then stormwater is allowed to go across an easement, and that is not something that the township needs to address. Andrew, the township manager, said that storms like this happened in 2012 and 2018 and flooded that same area of the guy who had his basement flood and his basement wall collapse. And he said that it sounds like the seller of the homes did not disclose flooding, and he should be taking up those issues with whoever sold him the house rather than the township. So the general vibe was there's not much that the township can do to help these residents, but I thought it was worth mentioning because with climate change, these storms are only going to get worse and worse. So we as a township maybe need to take a second look at our stormwater management plan and maybe see what we can do to try and decrease the amount of flooding that's been happening. Because I don't live in a floodplain, but even my home on that day in July got a little bit of rain in the garage. So I think that these weather events are only going to get worse with time, and it could use some planning. But the current board thinks that what we have is sufficient. So that's what you missed in the August board meeting. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to each other again real soon. Thanks.